Hey, what's up? Pizza Living Nerd here. Recently I had a video idea, so I'm making said video idea into a video. uh, in this video, we're going to talk about my feature wish list of GNOME, whether it's GNOME 3.34, GNOME 3.36, or even maybe GNOME Shell 4. I don't know. Anyways, let's get into it. Okay, so the first thing is pretty basic. I want more resource improvements. GNOME 3.28 was unusable for me because of how heavy it was on resources. And GNOME 3.30 significantly improved it, and GNOME 3.32 improved it even more. Now, when I was at Linux Fest, I did talk to the GNOME team at their booth, and I told them how much I liked the resource improvements, and they did tell me that they will be adding even more resource improvements for GNOME 3.34. So that's happy to hear, and I hope they continue with these resource improvements. This can technically be a feature in my wishlist for every new GNOME version, because the more performance improvements, the better, right? It'd be awesome if GNOME only took up 100 megabytes. That would be awesome. But yeah, the less resources, the better, so I want GNOME to keep improving it as much as they can. Now, the next feature I'd like to talk about is desktop icons. GNOME used to have desktop icons, and then they removed them. Now, you can get desktop icons back using a GNOME extension. However, the problem is extensions are kind of finicky, and they crash, and stuff like that. So, I wouldn't really, let's just say that's not my favorite way of getting desktop icons on a desktop. Now, I'd like to add them back into Nautilus, and the reason why is because 1, we'll have a much easier way to get desktop icons, and 2, other desktops like Budgie, for example, depend on Nautilus to get desktop icons. So when GNOME removes it for themselves, they have to be mindful of all the other projects that use Nautilus. Now, keep desktop icons, and if GNOME really doesn't want desktop icons, just make it so they aren't there by default. And then the distros that do want to have desktop icons can enable it through dconf editor, and then Budgie could have a way to turn on desktop icons in the Budgie software, or not the Budgie Software Center, the Budgie software, the Budgie settings control panel. I can't talk. So yeah, just add at least a little bit of support of desktop icons back into Nautilus, please. The next thing I'd like is a way to access your applications without going into activities. With XFCE or Budgie, for example, if I want to access my applications, I make one click on the menu. However, with GNOME, I have to first go into activities and then go to show applications, and that's kind of annoying in my opinion. So what I do instead is have the hot corner. Because Activities out of the box has a button and a hot corner. So keep the hot corner for Activities, but then change the Activities button to be an Applications button. That's what I do. Next would be less dependence on the GNOME tweak tool for customizing. How about just one thing I want, or two things I want. One, make it so you can toggle GNOME extensions in the GNOME settings application, and 2, make it so you can change your GDK and icon theme in the GNOME settings application tool. That would be pretty nice. Another cool feature would be video wallpapers. Now, we already have like adaptive wallpapers that change color depending on your time of day. However, it'd be nice to be able to set an MP4 file as a wallpaper that loops around, or maybe you can even make video wallpapers that are downloadable through the GNOME extension website thing. So then you could just toggle it like a GNOME extension. That would be a cool idea. The next thing I'd like is a notification system similar to the way Windows, Mac, Budgie, and Deepin do it, where there is a panel or whatever, a menu with all your notifications. Now GNOME kind of has that where if you click on the date you can see your notifications. However, what I'm thinking of is the way Windows 10 does it, where you open one thing and you have access to like a control center where you can quickly toggle and untoggle stuff, and then there's also your notifications. And that's why I like Budgie. That's why Budgie's my favorite desktop. It's because of the Raven menu. And if the Raven menu went to GNOME, then GNOME would probably be my favorite desktop. So maybe in GNOME 4 or GNOME, I don't think it's going to happen in GNOME 3.34, but in 3.36 or even GNOME Shell 4, add that please. That would be a very welcome feature in my book. Now, my last GNOME Shell specific feature is to build GS Connect into GNOME Shell. Now, I really like GS Connect, however, I wish that it would become actually part of GNOME Shell. So that way I don't have to install it every time I want to use it. That would be a nice feature. Although, to be fair, GS Connect is not made by the GNOME team, but just add something similar out of the box. Alright, so that's all for GNOME Shell. Now let's talk about some GNOME applications that I'd like to see new features for. Let's start with GNOME Web. Now, GNOME Web is fine as it is if you just want a basic out-of-the-box experience. So if you just want a browser that just works, you don't need any extensions, and it has a built-in ad blocker, GNOME Web might work for that. However, there is one feature I would really like on GNOME Web: extensions. Now, if you do add extensions, don't integrate it with GNOME extensions, because then other desktops, if you're using another desktop like Budgie, then you won't be able to get extensions on GNOME Web if it was integrated with GNOME extensions. However, if you add extensions and you don't integrate them with GNOME extensions website, that would be awesome, because then I could finally get Dark Reader on GNOME Web. Okay, next I got two features for the GNOME Software Center. Now, the GNOME Software Center seems to suck on Debian-based distros. It has really poor app support, I've noticed. Apt support. However, it works flawlessly on Fedora and Arch, I have noticed. Now, some features I'd like to see in the GNOME Software Center is a way to filter between snaps, and Flatpaks. So maybe when you're searching stuff, there can be like three radio boxes. One says all, one says snaps, one says Flatpaks, and then one says distro repository or whatever. That's not three, that's four. Same difference. And then that way you can be able to sort through them. Another cool thing would be app image support into the GNOME Software Center. So the way that would work would be similar to the way Nutrix OS does it, where Nutrix OS's Software Center uses app images. So yeah, you could basically make GNOME, you can just have use their API, the App Image Hub API, to list app images. And yeah, that would be a cool idea. Yeah. The next thing I'll talk about is GNOME Music. GNOME Music right now is my favorite music player for Linux, because I just want a music player that works. I want it to show my albums in like a grid layout, and then I can select my album and then either play the whole album or play the whole song. And GNOME Music and Lollipop and some of the elementary OS music players are the only ones that do that. But Lollipop is too bloated. The elementary OS music players only work on elementary OS, and you could get them through Flatpaks, but they don't integrate well into non-elementary distros. So that's why I use GNOME Music. However, there are some features I would like in GNOME Music. One, music visualizers would be cool, where it shows like your music moving around. That would be awesome. Two, it'd be cool to view lyrics for a song, whether it gets them online or it gets them from embedded lyrics. And three, add some Last.fm and Library.fm scrobbling into GNOME Music. And finally, I got an idea for a whole new application called GNOME YouTube. Now, what GNOME YouTube would be is it would be similar to GNOME Twitch, where it would be an fully functional GDK-based YouTube player, where you can like, comment, dislike, yeah, and then you would log in with your Google account in order to get your subs and stuff. Now, the only thing you probably wouldn't be able to do in GNOME Music is use the live chat on live streams. However, they did make the live chat work with GNOME Twitch, so maybe it might work with GNOME YouTube. But yeah, you could be able to do everything on the YouTube website, but it would be a nice GDK-based application that integrates with your system. So anyways, those are all my GNOME 4/3.34/3.36 features. Thank you for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.